In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how you can edit like Iman Gadzhi's new style. And specifically, I'm going to be showing you guys how I recreated this edit from one of his recent YouTube videos in Adobe After Effects. Also, just a quick mention, if you are a beginner or intermediate video editor looking to level up and edit like a professional as soon as possible, then I would highly recommend that you check out my video editing product skill cut through the top link in the description below. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new composition. I'm going to name mine New Iman Tutorial. I'm then going to import all of the assets which I'm going to be using today. You can find a link to them in the description below. I'm then going to create a new solid, and now I'm going to start trying to create the actual background. So this black background is going to act as the base, and then I'm going to import this light leak on top of it. I'm then just going to adjust the scale and position, and I'm going to adjust the opacity to around 10%. So now it's just a very subtle like red light leak. And then now I'm going to actually animate it to make it move like it did in the original video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to alt click on the position, and I'm going to type up in the code box wiggle bracket 3,300 closing bracket, and then I'm going to go to the start, and then I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to type up at the top posterize time bracket 5 closing bracket. And now as you can see, like the background will move around like it did in the original video. It's not the exact same because it's not the same light leak that he used, but it's similar enough, and it doesn't need to be the exact same anyway. And now actually I forgot to import my like moving dots overlay. So I'm going to import that, and I'm going to add that on top of the light leak. I'm going to change the mode to screen, and I'm going to adjust the opacity to around 50%. And I'm going to go to time, then time stretch, and I'll change the stretch factor to around 400, which will make the movement a bit slower. And then I'm just going to adjust the position slightly. And as you can see now, we have a background that is actually looking quite similar to the one that was in the original Iman Gadzhi video. I'm then actually going to adjust the opacity of the moving dots overlay to 30%. And this is what we've got now. Now I'm actually going to import these vectors, which I found on FreePic. And I've already like edited these vectors. So, and then I've separated the layers, because on these layers, when you actually like download the picture, it's just all of the layers together, and I've basically gone and separated them for you. But if you want to know how to separate them, I have made a video on how to like animate and how to like animations and stuff. So you can go check that out if you actually want to know how to like separate the layers and stuff. I'm just going to import the actual vector here, and you can find a link to this as well in the description below in the assets folder. So as you can see, we have a hand holding a phone. It's not very similar to the original one, which was in the original video, but again, it doesn't need to be. This video is not showing you how to do like the exact, how to like source the assets and everything. It's showing you how to actually like animate the assets, and I'm still going to make it look the same. It's just going to be the actual asset the asset itself is going to be different. I'm just going to double click to open up the layers and show all the layers which I've separated. So I've got finger 1, finger 2, finger 3, front arm and back arm. And now I'm going to make the layers actually move. So and then it looks like the arm is like moving to click on the screen like it did in the original video. So I'm going to keyframe the position and the rotation on the front arm, and I'm going to do the same thing with the back arm. Then I'm going to go forward until I want the movement to like be finished, which is around a second in, maybe a second and a half. And I'll just open up the keyframes, and I'll add like position and rotation keyframes for both the front and the back arm again. Then I'm going to go to the start, and I'm just going to make it so, and then the right arm starts over here, and I'm also going to rotate it to like +9, so and then there is a rotation. And when you play this back, as you can see, the like arm goes across the screen. I'm then going to link finger 1 to 3 to the back arm, because what I did when I separated them is I separated the fingers as well, so and then we can actually edit this screen. But again, when we actually move this back arm, because the fingers are a separate layer, it will move without the fingers. So I'm just linking this will mean that when we move the back arm, the fingers will move with it. So then everything looks fine. And now I'm just going to move the back arm to around here. And I'm just going to adjust the rotation to like -13. And as you can see now, they're both coming up like it did in the original video. But I'm also just going to make some small adjustments as well. I'm then going to highlight all of these keyframes that I've made, and I'm going to press F9, and I'm going to go into the graph editor, and I'm going to create this with the graph so that there's a steep peak in the middle with all of these layers. And as you can see now, everything should move a lot smoother. Now I'm going to go back to the original composition, and I'm just going to make sure everything's in the right position. So I'm just going to move the actual like hand holding phone composition. So, and then it's like where it should be around here. Then I'm going to keyframe the position of the hand at the start, and then I'm going to go to the point where it stopped moving in the other composition, and I'm going to add another position keyframe. Then I'm going to go back to the original position keyframe, and I'm just going to move it so and then it's closer to the screen. I'm going to make sure this hand holding phone layer is a 3D layer by pressing the cube, and I'm going to move the third position keyframe that is created closer So, and then the actual phone, like the layer moves, is like closer to us. And this will also make it appear bigger. And then I'm also just going to move it up. So, and then it looks like the bottom is in line with the bottom as well. And actually, I'm just going to play around with the position in the hand holding phone composition as well. Now I'm just going to edit the actual like position keyframes. So I'm just going to highlight them. I'll press F9 and I'll match the graph to what we did for the other one. So there's a steep peak in the middle. And actually I'm going to go back to the other composition. I'm going to find the peak and then I'm going to go back to the original composition and I'm just going to make sure that same peak for this graph is in line with the peak for the other graph. So as you can see now, we're basically just matching the graph. But I'm just going to adjust the graph a bit so and then it looks just a bit smoother. And I'm also just going to adjust the rotation of the phone layer just a bit as well. I'm also just going to make it so and then it ends just a bit higher. And then so that like the phone is actually like higher up and a bit closer to the camera as well. Now I'm happy with that. I'm going to make the actual hand layer look more similar to what I did in the original video. So I'm going to search up black and white and I'm going to add the black and white onto the layers. So I'll add it onto finger 1, finger 2, finger 3, front arm and back arm as well. So now everything's black and white. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change the like phone screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to like hide all of the layers that are in front of the screen. So finger 1, finger 2, finger 3, and front arm. So now we're just left with the hand holding the phone, and I'm going to get the rectangle tool here, and I'm just going to create a rectangle over the actual like screen. I'm going to make sure there's no stroke, and I'll make the fill color black, and I'll make sure it's just matched onto the phone. And then what I'm going to do is I'm now going to create the buy and sell boxes that were in the original video. So I'm going to create a rectangle like so. I'll change the fill color to green. And I'm going to open up rectangle path 1, and I'm just going to increase the roundness to something like 13. Actually, I'll make it 9, and I'm just going to position it so and then it's where I want it to be and where it was in the original video. And then I'm going to search up glow. I'm going to add the glow onto the box, and I'm going to change the glow based on to alpha channel, the glow radius to around 12%, and the glow intensity to like 0.7. Then I'm going to duplicate this layer, and I'll make the second one just slightly below it like this. And I'm just going to change the fill color of this one to red. Actually, I'm just going to make the green and red color of these boxes just a slightly darker version of the brightest version, so like this. Now I'm actually going to add the buy and sell text, so I'm going to get the text tool here, and I'm just going to type up buy. This isn't the same font as the one he used, and this one actually doesn't allow you to do lowercase, but it's the only one I can actually find like in built-in After Effects that's actually similar to the one he used. But at the same time, it doesn't really matter if we're using the same font as him or not, and we'll just keep it in the capitals because, as I said, you can't make it lowercase. So I'll just scale it down and position it in the middle of the green box. And now I'm happy with the position of the buy text. I'm then going to duplicate it, and I'm just going to move it so and then like the new duplicated one so it's above the red box, and I'm just going to change the text so and then it says sell. And now I'm happy with those boxes. I'm just going to create the like actual like money text as well. So I'm going to type up in the same font $3,000, and then I'm going to scale it down and position it where I want it to be. Now I'm going to create the actual line underneath the text. So I'm going to get the pen tool, and I'm going to create a straight line underneath the $3,000 text. I'm going to turn off the fill color, and I'll make the stroke like very small, like maybe 1 or 2. And as you can see now, there's a really thin white line. But now I'm going to add the gradient ramp effects onto this line, and I'll make the actual like 2 gradient positions. So and then they're on either end of the line. And then I'm just going to press swap colors. So and then the it starts off white on the left and then becomes black on the right. And I'm actually just going to make it so and then the actual like second position one is just like closer to the left. So and then it fades out sooner. Now I'm actually going to link the screen to the actual phone. So and then when the phone moves, so does the screen. So and then it like the actual screen looks like it's a screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find all of the like screen layers. So like the black screen background, and then like the boxes and the text. And I'm just going to pick whip it to the back arm layer. And I'm also going to turn on the visibility of the like finger and the front arm. And as you can see now, when the arm moves, so does the text, but the actual like screen's in front of the arm. So I'm just going to move all of these layers underneath the front arm. And now everything should be fine when it comes to that. And now I'm actually going to animate the finger so and then it looks like it's clicking on the screen like it did in the original video. So I'm going to get the puppet pin tool at the top, and I'm going to add points all over where I don't want the finger or where I don't want the arm to move. So I'm going to add points, just like imagine the puppet pins are like, you add pins where you don't want it to move, but you also add a pin where you want it to move, and then you just only move the one that you want it to move. But because you've added all of the other pins, it's essentially just not going to move the other like pins, and it's just going to make the rest of the image stationary. And this allows you to have control to actually move an image instead of just like the whole thing moving. So I'm going to add points all over the hand, and then I'm also going to add the 1 point where I want it to move on the finger. Then I'm going to go forward by around half a second to a second, and I'm just going to move the point on the finger so and then it looks like it's about to click. Then I'm going to shorten the distance between the two keyframes. Then I'm going to go forward by around the same amount, and I'm going to copy the first keyframe and I'll paste it here. Then I'm going to highlight these keyframes and I'll press F9. And as you can see now, there is like this like finger clicking animation. But I'm also just going to actually play around with the keyframes and space them out a bit as well. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the actual like green box layer, which is I think shape layer 2. And I'm going to add the fill effect onto this. And I'm going to change the color so and then it was what it was before. And I'm also going to keyframe it. And I'm just going to change the color to this green color. I'll make it slightly like darker. And then I'm going to go forward by around maybe a couple frames, and I'm just going to change the color so and then it's a like a much lighter version of that green. Now it's created 2 keyframes for the actual color. Now I'm going to go and locate these 2 keyframes that I've made. I'll highlight them, I'll press F9, and then I'm going to go forward by another couple frames, and I'm just going to copy the first keyframe and I'll paste it here. So and then it should go from fully green to like half green to then back to fully green. And as you can see now, it has this like, it looks like the button is turning a bit white as the finger presses it. So it makes it look like the finger's actually clicking it. I'm also just going to space out these keyframes a bit as well. And I'm actually going to make the middle keyframe just even less green. And as you can see now, it looks good. But I'm actually just going to make it so and then the actual clicking just starts a bit further in time. So I'm just going to move these 3 keyframes just a bit further in time. I'm going to space them out a bit as well. And then I'm also just going to go to the middle one, and I'll make sure that the clicking, like the actual color change as well, is also lined up with that. So I'll move that forward in time as well. So now it's what it was before, but just a bit further in time. Now I'm going to search up in the effects and presets slider control, and I'm going to add this onto the $3,000 text. And this is basically going to allow us to animate this text and make it so and then the number is like going up. I'm then going to open up this, I'm going to open up the text option, and I'm going to alt click on the source text. I'm then going to pick whip this to this slider. And now this may seem a bit confusing, but to just follow along with exactly what I'm doing and add the exact same text and the exact same numbers that I'm about to add, and it will work as well for you. So just type up num space equals space double commas. In between the double commas, put the $sign, then space, then plus space, and then have the effects, slider control, and then the rest of the text. Then go to the end and type dot value dot to fixed brackets 0 closing bracket. Then create a second line and paste this bit of code, which I will link in the description. And this bit of code will allow you to will basically make it so and then there's commas as well, like automatically generated commas. Then keyframe the slider at the start, and then go forward by like 2 seconds, and then make it so and then the slider is got a value of 3,000. Then go back to the start and then make it so and then it starts at 2,000. So then the number will like go from 2,000 to $3,000. I'm also just going to make it so it takes a bit longer to actually like reach 3,000. And now I'm actually going to make the number transition in. So I'm going to open up Window, and I'm going to open up Animation Composer 3, which is just this free extension that I use. It's completely free. I'm not affiliated or sponsored by this company. It's just, it basically will allow me to add transitions without having to create them, which will save time. But also, if you want to do this without it, you could just use like the typewriter effect. It won't be the exact same one as the one he used or the one I use, but it's going to be like, because I don't even think the one I'm going to be using is the same as the one he used. But at the same time, like, it doesn't need to be the same. But at the same time, if you want to do this without Animation Composer 3, you can basically use the typewriter effect, which is already inbuilt in After Effects. But I'm going to open up Animation Composer 3, and then I'm going to open up Starter Presets, Transitions Text Layer, and I'm going to add the fade characters together from Start Effects onto this as well. And as you can see now, it transitions in. It's not the same as the one he used, but it is quite similar. Now I'm actually going to add the red line that actually like animates in the original video, that like curves around, I guess. So what I'm going to do to create that is I'm going to get the pen tool, and I'm going to create the line starting from here, just behind the hand. Then I'm going to add a point here, and then I'm going to add a point where I want it to finish. So then now there's like a straight line, and then I'm just going to bend it. So, and then it bends to the left, to the right. As you can see now we have this like bendy line, but I'm going to increase the stroke. So, and then it's roughly the same size as it was in the original video. I'm just going to adjust the actual curve a bit as well. And I'm going to position it behind the actual hand holding phone layer. I'm just going to decrease the stroke a bit as well. And I'm going to add the gradient ramp effect onto this layer. I'm going to play around with the two positions. So and then the first one starts here and the second one starts at the end here. I'm going to make the end color black and the start color red. And actually I'm going to make it a slightly dark version of red like this. And I'm just going to adjust the position and the color of the end color. So and then it's a like slightly gray version of red. I guess it's like a dark, really dark version of red. And I'm just going to adjust the curve as well so it's a bit more curved. And then I'm going to open up this arrow. And then to animate it, I'm going to open up this arrow. I'm going to add the trim paths effect. I'm going to keyframe the end at 0% at the start or whenever I want it to come in. And then I'm going to go forward by around a second or two. And I'll increase the end to 100%. And this will create two keyframes. I'll highlight these keyframes. I'll press F9. And I'll go into the graph editor to create a steep peak in the middle like so. And as you can see now, it will like start from the bottom and then like curve around to the top like it did in the original video. And I'm actually just going to adjust the graph and I'll just make it so and then it's a bit steeper than it was before, like this. And I'm also going to move the keyframe so and then it starts a bit earlier like so. And actually I'll make it start a lot earlier because it is really late. Now I'm going to create an adjustment layer and I'm going to add the transform effect onto this adjustment layer. And around 6 seconds in, I'm going to keyframe the scale, position, and rotation on this like transform effect. And I'm actually going to move everything to the so and then everything's more on the right. And I'm just going to scale up the dark gray solid or like the original background as well. And actually I'm just going to move it so and then it starts right on the edge of like the screen before it turns onto the actual like composition, the gray composition, like as far to the right as we can. So as you can see, the phone will go from the middle to the right, and I'm just going to change the rotation so and then it's like maybe +7, and I'll just move the position as well so and then you can't see the edge. Then I'm going to go to the first keyframe here and I'm going to keyframe the position of the hand holding phone layer. Then I'm going to go to the second keyframe and I'm actually just going to pick whip this shape layer 1 or the like the actual curved line to the hand holding phone layer. And then I'm just going to move the hand holding phone so and then it's all the way on the right. So and then the actual bendy line and the phone are on the right side of the screen. So they go from the middle to the right. Then I'm going to highlight these 6 keyframes. I'll press F9. Then I'm going to go into the graph editor to create a steep peak in the middle like I've done twice in this video. So as you can see, now we've got a steep peak in the middle and the like layers go from the middle to the right. Then I'm also going to keyframe the scale like at this point. And then I'm going to add another scale keyframe at the second keyframe. And I'm just going to increase the scale to like 111. And then I'm just going to move it so and then everything's where it was before as well. So now it's just a bit more scaled in. And actually I'm going to press F9 and I'll just create another steep peak in the middle with all the layers as well. So now it's what it was before, but it just scales in a bit as well. And I'm also just going to adjust the position of this bendy line a bit. And I'm also just going to play around with the actual like 3D layer. So and then it's basically closer to the camera or the third position value, I guess. And again, I'm just going to move it up and then move it to the left a bit as well. So and then it's where it was before, but now it like scales up and moves closer to the camera. Now over this adjustment layer, I'm going to import this arm holding money picture that I also got from FreePic. You can find this in the assets as well. I'm just going to go to transform and I'm going to click flip horizontal. So and then it's on the other side. And then I'm just going to position it so and then it's around here. But I'm also just going to scale it up and position it where it was in the original video, which is around here. And now I'm going to make it actually transition on screen. So I'm just going to add a position keyframe in line with the other like keyframes. And then I'm going to go to the first set of keyframes as well. And I'm just going to move it so and then it's like at the top of the screen, out of the screen so you can't see it. And I'm also going to keyframe the rotation at this point. And then I'm going to go to the second set of keyframes and I'll add another rotation keyframe. Then I'll go back to the original set of keyframes and I'm just going to rotate the rotation so and then it's around like 100, like positive 100. And as you can see now, it will like transition in from the top of the screen. But I'm just going to highlight these keyframes. I'll press F9 and I'll create a steep peak in the middle like I did for the other set of keyframes. So now it will move in the same way as the other things in the video did as well. And now I'm actually going to add the green like curved line So I'm going to get the pen tool and I'm just going to make a point here and then a point here as well. And then I'm just going to make it so and then it bends like this. And I'm just going to decrease the stroke a bit as well. And I'm going to add the gradient ramp effect onto this bendy line. And I'm going to change the position so and then the point starts and ends where the actual line does. And I'm going to make the start color, like I'm going to use the pen tool to make the start color like the same as the background, so and then it blends in, it looks like it's like fading into the background. And I'm going to make the like end color just this green color, and actually I'll just make it slightly darker. And like it was in the original video, I'm going to make it so the ends of the lines are round. So I'm going to open up shape 1, stroke 1, and I'm going to change the line cap to round cap. So as you can see now, it's like round at the end of the line. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with the red line as well. So shape 1, stroke 1, line cap to round cap. I'm then just going to pick whip this actual like green line to the arm holding money, which means that when the arm holding money one goes down, so will the green line. But these lines were actually blurry in the original video. They had a very slight blur on them, so I'm going to add the fastbox blur effect onto the green line. I'm going to change the blur radius to around 3. And I'm going to add this onto the red line as well. But the red line started off like fully clear and then turned to like blur as it like zoomed in. So I'm going to add the fastbox blur, and I'm going to keyframe the blur radius like on the first set of keyframes. Then I'll go to the second set of keyframes and I'll make it 3 as well. And I'm just going to highlight these 2 keyframes and I'll press F9 as well. I'm also just going to add the black and white effect onto the hand holding money effect, the hand holding money layer as well. In the original video, the actual like hand holding, the hand was like black and white and the cash was green, but that's because he had 2 separate layers. But I've just found one on FreePick that has it all together and saves like another long process. Like I'm just going to make the whole thing black and white. And now I'm actually going to add the investing text. So I'm going to get the text tool and I'm going to type up in the same font, investing. I'm then just going to scale it down and I'm going to position it in the middle, and I'm also going to position the actual like layer. So, and then it is underneath like every other layer apart from the actual background. But then because obviously like we scaled in and rotated everything, then it's also at an angle. So, and then I'm just going to change the rotation. So, and then it's until it's like fully straight, which is around -7. I'm also just going to scale it down and position it in the middle again as well. And I'm just going to cut it so where I want it to start with Command Shift D. And I'm also going to open up Animation Composer 3 again. And I'm going to this time add the scale characters to like 1 instead from the transitions text layer. This is not the same one he used. He used more of a glitch one. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure like the one he would use, I know how he's done it, but it would take too long. But this video is already quite long and I think it'll be unnecessary to like add that part in. So instead I'll just use Animation Composer 3 because the main like chunk of this video is obviously showing you guys how to do like, you know, the other stuff. This is just like the tiny little stuff that doesn't really make a difference. I'm going to make it take a bit longer, and as you can see now we have this transition. I'm then going to create a new adjustment layer, and I'm going to search up in the effects and presets transform, and I'm going to add this transform effect onto that adjustment layer. I'm going to keyframe the scale around 7 seconds in, and I'm just going to increase it to like 115, and then I'm going to go forward by around a second or so and I'll make the scale 100. Then I'm going to highlight these keyframes, I'll press F9, then I'll go into the graph editor and I'll create a steep peak in the middle with the graph like so. And basically what I wanted to do with this is I wanted to recreate that same zooming out effect. But the problem is that like I have nothing to zoom out of because like without scaling everything in. But the problem is if I scale in, then everything else will be too scaled in and like all of the positioning will be a bit messed up. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to zoom in like a bit and then it's going to zoom out back to the original. But instead of it like being zoomed in, what I'm going to now do is I'm going to decrease, like I'm going to scale down each layer just a bit. So and then we have that same effect. So I'm just going to scale down the arm holding money one a bit as well. And because the green line is tracked onto that, the green line will scale down as well. And then I'm just going to move the position of the text. And I'm also going to scale down the arm holding the phone as well as the red line as well. And now everything's scaled down a bit. And I'm also just going to play around with the position of the text as well, the investing text. And now everything should be good. And what I'm going to do is I'm also just going to change the shape of the bendy red line a bit. So then it doesn't go off screen and then it ends just a bit earlier like so. Actually, I'm just going to make the red color just a bit darker as well. At the start, you can see like the bottom part of the bit where like it's scaled out and the like the, I guess the hand and the phone, like you can see the bottom of it where there's like a gap. So to fix that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a new adjustment layer. And I'm going to add the transform effect onto this adjustment layer as well. Actually, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the, I'm going to find the adjustment layer, like the third one down. So not the one we just made and not the one below that, but the one below that, the one with the already existing transform effect onto it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keyframe the scale at the start, and then I'm going to go forward. So, and then when everything is like fully stopped moving, like the hand, and I shall line up the keyframes perfectly just to make sure everything's fine. And then I'm just going to add another position keyframe. And then I'm going to go back to the start and I'm just going to scale it in. So, and then the bottom of the hand is actually lining up with the bottom of the screen. And then I'm going to highlight these keyframes and I'm going to basically create a steep peak in the middle with the graph with the two keyframes we've just made. So that it matches the movement of the actual hand. So, and then you can't notice that the screen is scaling in. So as you can see now, everything is fine again. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that like signature Iman Gadzhi low frame rate look. So I'm going to search up posterized time in the effects and presets, and I'm going to add that onto the top adjustment layer. And I'm going to change the frame rate to 14. And I'm also going to search up vignettes, and I'm going to add this vignette effect onto the top adjustment layer as well. I'm going to increase the amount a lot to like 200, and I'm going to decrease the angle of view to like 15. And now we are almost done. One of the last things we have to do though is we have to add the bars, like the one in the top right and top left hand corner of the screen that come up like at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the rectangle tool and I'm just going to create a like long rectangle like so. I'm going to decrease the stroke to 0 and I'm just going to make the fill color this very dark gray. I'm just going to position it in the center, so then it will make everything easier to work with. And I'm going to duplicate this layer and I'm going to make the fill color, like turn off the fill color for this new layer, and I'm going to increase the stroke and I'll make the stroke like a dark version of red. So then now it will have a dark gray rectangle with a red outline around it. Then I'm going to open up the contents of both of these layers, but I'll do it one at a time. So I'll go contents, rectangle, rectangle path 1, and I'll increase the roundness to the max. So it goes on forever, so we'll just increase it by a lot, so like 800 or whatever. And then I'll do the same thing with the outline as well. I'll increase the roundness to like 1000 or something, which is like the max. So now the actual corners of the bar are like round, so it's like a bar instead of a rectangle. And now I'm happy with that. I'm just going to type up risk, and I'm just going to scale it down and position the text where I want it to be in the middle of the bar, like slightly to the right though. So then now I'm going to import this money bag icon, which I also got from FreePick. And then I'll just scale it down and position it to the left of the text. Then I'm going to search up in the effects and presets fill, and I'm going to add the fill effect onto this money bag, and I'll change the fill color to white. Now I'm going to link the actual like money bag, the risk text, and the outline to the like gray solid, like the gray I guess bar. And this means that when we move like the gray bar, everything will be like will move together and will be tracked together. Now I'm going to highlight all of these layers. I'm going to duplicate them with Control D, and I'm just going to move that up to the top. Then I'm also going to pick whip the second set to the actual second bar, the second gray bar. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the position of this second bar, so and then it's now in the top left. And what I'm going to do is I'm now just going to animate these bars. So I'm going to, around like 9 seconds in, or whenever we want the actual bar to transition in, we're going to keyframe the position of the like the bottom gray bar, and I'm just going to keyframe the position of that. Then I'm going to go forward by around a second or two, and I'll add another position keyframe. Then I'll go back to the original one, and I'll move it so and then it starts off screen. Then I'm going to highlight these two keyframes. I'll press F9, and then I'll create a steep peak at the start with the graph like so. And now it should transition in smoothly. And now I'm actually going to do the same thing with the second bar, the one on the left. But before we do anything, we'll change the text, so and then it says reward instead of risk. And then I'm just going to play around with the positioning of the text and the money bag, so and then like they're not overlapping and that they are in the right position. And now I'm happy with that. I'm also going to keyframe the position of the like bottom gray like rectangle, and then I'm going to go forward by around a second or so or two, and then I'm going to like make it so and then it starts off screen on the left. And then I'm going to highlight these keyframes, press F9, and I'll do the same thing as earlier. So a steep peak at the start. And as you can see now, the risk one comes in, and then the reward one comes in like half a second later. And actually now I'm going to go to the point where I want it to be fully ending, like the actual edit to be like fully done, which is around 11 seconds in, or just after the reward box fully transitions in. And I'm just going to move the slider so and then it actually like ends here. And then I'm going to right click and press trim comp to work area. And actually I've realized that I've added a bunch of things over the like Iman Gadzhi low frame rate glitchy like posterized time adjustment layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the like posterized time adjustment layer, and I'm going to move it up to the top. So then it's above all of the layers. So then every single layer has that like low frame rate look. And pretty much the last thing we have to do now is pretty much just add that like kind of like very subtle camera shake, which was in the original video. So I'm going to search up in the effects and presets transform, and I'm going to add that onto the top adjustment layer. I'm going to change the scale to like 103. So and then when it wiggles around, you can't see the edge of the screen. And I'm just going to alt click on the position stopwatch, and I'm going to type up wiggle bracket 1,6 actually no 7 closing bracket, and now there will be a subtle camera shake, like which was what was in the original video as well. And actually the very last quick thing I'll do is I'll just change the opacity of the light leak, so and then it's not 8% and it's now 10%. And now I've done that, this is the finished edit. And just a quick reminder about Skill Cut: if you are a beginner or intermediate video editor looking to level up and edit like a professional as soon as possible, then I would highly recommend that you check out Skill Cut through the top link in the description below.